Banlist Review. Alright guys, a new ban list came into the game. Here's the list itself. If you haven't seen it yet, absorb it into your brain, really soak it in, because we're going to get right into the meat and potatoes of what all of these changes actually mean for the decks that these cards are played in. Before this ban list, the best deck in the game has been Tachyon, and what you're seeing on the screen is a fairly standard version of how the deck has been played. Of course, there are going to be lots of variants based on player preferences, like tech choices, ratio choices, extra deck choices, but what I'm showing here is just a simple and standard version of the deck for the purposes of showing how the deck used to be. This deck can pretty easily end up with Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon on the field with the counter trap, as well as either a Felgrand to negate an opponent's monster or protect your own Tachyon Dragon, or alternatively, a Coach King Giant Trainer to draw into follow-ups, extensions, and tech slots. The big hits that impact this aspect of the deck are the counter trap, Felgrand, and Coach King. They're all now limited to one, meaning you can only pick one out of these three for your game plan. Of course, the counter trap is the most busted thing about this deck, so we really have to play that. At least that's what I'm imagining is going to be the case. I imagine people are still going to try out playing the Felgrand without the counter trap, or the Coach King without the counter trap, since they can both represent interruptions as well as a strong way to play through opponents' interruptions. But the counter trap is so easily searchable by the skill, and out of these three it's the easiest to use and easiest to access out of these strong cards. So instead, players might summon Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon with a counter trap alongside a Dingirsu to protect it from destruction, as well as a second copy of Dingirsu for its on summon effect on follow-up turn. Dingirsu is really strong right now since there are a lot of decks that rely on destruction, namely Shiranui really likes using destruction, so this could be a good replacement for the turn 1. If they want to keep playing Felgrand or Coach King, then it wouldn't be as useful to go into Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon turn 1, since the main reason to summon it is so that the counter trap is live. So you might instead summon the Dingirsu next to Felgrand or Coach King to protect those instead. But the great thing about having Tachyon Dragon on your opening field is that if it survives, you can rank it up into the other Galaxy Eyes Xyz to break the opponent's board without committing anything you haven't already committed to the board. We are going to have to see how competitive players feel though after testing things out. The other big nerf is that the extension piece Galactic Spiral Dragon is now limited to 3. This card is really important to the game plan, so we can't really cut it out of the deck, but the reason that they did this is to stop us from playing the limited 3 card pool like Crackdown and Mind Control. These are generally the most powerful staples most of the time, but it's alright because we can switch those out for whatever other staples are available to us and are relevant for the format. They also limited Shian Spy and Vengeful Servant. These were involved in an FTK version of Tachyons. The FTK wasn't quite as competitive as the standard versions of Tachyons, since it did hope to go first, but if it did go first, Tachyons don't really care about hand traps, so there isn't really anything you can do to prevent the FTK. Obviously this is really unhealthy, so Konami doesn't want it to exist. I know a lot of people have been asking us to make a Tachyon advanced guide, but as you can see, the deck hasn't even been out that long and it's already hit to a degree that most of the guide would need to be updated on anyway. And this is something that most people saw coming in some form or another, since the deck has been so overwhelmingly dominant. Team 6K, we want to make videos that last a long time so that they can be helpful to a lot of people, and it really does take a while for us to make each video, so we didn't want to spend all of that effort making a Tachyon video just to have to make another one after the ban list a week after. Don't worry though, as soon as the ban list takes effect, Tachyons is getting that advanced guide and you're going to know the best way to play Tachyons moving forward. So we literally just dropped our Shiranui video, and a lot of people are worried that this new ban list kills the deck. Don't worry, Shiranui's is completely fine. Limiting Spirit Master to 1 is a bit weird and random because, to be honest, Shiranui isn't especially stronger than most of the competitive decks in the game right now. It's just the fact that the deck has a good game plan against the tier 0 Tachyon that has made this deck so popular. So if you take Tachyon down a peg, then Shiranui's relevance also goes down without even needing to nerf it. That's not to say Shiranui isn't a very strong deck, of course it is, but the hits against this deck are more of an annoyance than anything. Hitting Spirit Master to 1 means that our Gold Sarcophagus can only pop a face up 1 time, and if we happen to have the Spirit Master in our hand, there is a chance the Gold Sarcophagus may actually be dead. Some people may for real just stop playing Gold Sarcophagus because of this, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. They could very well play other staples instead. I don't think it's so bad to keep running it though. It helps you to play through Crackdown, which is quite good against this deck, and if you already have Spirit Master used up, you can still use Gold Sarc to banish Samurai to add something back, or Solitaire to special summon something from the banish pile. The card's still versatile in this deck, but honestly the main purpose of it was Spirit Master, so you can still run it, but hypothetically if you weren't going to run it anymore, you could play other staples. The other hit of the deck is that Solitaire is limited to 3. This means you don't get to play limited to 3 back row like Crackdown, and it also means that if you want to play the Beatrice, then you can only play 2 copies of Solitaire. The Beatrice Gnomes combo is a pretty big deal in certain matchups, so people may be willing to take that trade of consistency to be able to do the Beatrice Gnomes combo, but they could always side out Beatrice and Gnomes in a best of 3 match against decks that it isn't that helpful against, and side the Solitaire back in for more consistency. To be honest, being able to get consistent access to Gnomes is really busted, and I do generally support the fact that Konami wants to make it more difficult to use. The only thing is that I don't know whether Tachyons has been hit enough that we should be nerfing the strategies that exist to hurt Tachyons. The Shiranui deck in general is pretty fine though. This is how I think I'm going to be playing it from now on. I do think there's a chance that I may play Gold Sark again, but I would like to try it out this way for a bit. Every combo that I talk about in the advanced guide is still available, but if you don't want to play the Beatrice Gnomes combo, you could instead run it like this, taking out the Gnomes for a 3rd Solitaire and putting in a bonus copy of Sun Saga in place of Beatrice, so you can have Sun Sagas return each other for a bit of an endless loop that doesn't rely on the Samsara trap. So the only 2 decks that are actually nerfed on this list are Tachyon and Shiranui, and it is worth noting that even though the hits both of these decks have suffered do leave these decks at a level that may be healthy for the game, Konami for about a year now has been releasing skill changes on a different day than Banlist changes, so there is a bit of a possibility that the Tachyon and Shiranui skill get touched in some way as well. Personally, I don't think Shiranui's skill needs anything to be done to it. Literally all the skill does is take a really horribly designed archetype and fix it so that it does what it wants to do. Tachyon, on the other hand, while it's kind of a similar situation, it does do so a little bit too well. So I do think that even after the Tachyon card limits, there may still be a Tachyon skill change as well. Of course, we never know what Konami's thinking until they actually do it, but while we wait for the ban list to take effect, we can see if there are any skill changes, and if there are, we can make further updates after that. Now that we've gotten all of that hits out of the way, let's take a look at all of the things that Konami buffed. DD got Thomas back to 2 from 1, making it more consistent for them to access rank 8 plays. This is pretty much the only card that the deck has left on the limited list, and there's a possibility that on the next list it gets put all the way back to 3 so that the deck can get out rank 8s easily. I also think that it's kind of nice for DDD. For ages, they haven't had a very good turn 1 at all, considering that there haven't really been any turn 1 rank 8s to go into. But now that we have Felgrand, and now that they no longer have anything limited to 1, DDDs can finally make a turn 1 board. I'm thinking that potentially they could go into Felgrand and Dingirsu turn 1, and if they go second, they can pretty easily go for an OTK play. Let us know if you want to see an updated DDD video after the ban list takes effect. Cosmo Town was put into the game automatically limited to 3 to prevent Cosmos from playing other cards that were limited to 3. But then after that, even though Cosmo saw a small amount of play alongside Sealed Tombs, they ended up falling off. I do believe that getting access to limited to 3 traps is going to make the deck stronger, and it might even be competitive enough to join the meta. I might even be interested in making an updated guide for the deck, as it has actually changed quite a bit since the last video we did on. Lady Debug is finally unlimited, which is great, because it didn't really need to be on the list anymore anyway. Pretty much every Cyburst deck has something better to do with a normal summon. I imagine that some Cyburst variants may be happy about this though. For future support for Cyburst decks, this could be cool. I don't think Cyburst decks right now will use it though, but I'm always down to be proven wrong, so if you've got any spice, be sure to tell us about it in the comments. Mech Knight Blue Sky is unlimited at last, though I will say the deck wasn't really playing any other limited to 2 cards, and when the deck was at full power, they only played 2 Blue Sky anyway, since it's only really that good at going second. At the end of the day though, this is good for the deck. Mech Knight players may begin playing with this at 3 so that their turn 2s can be more consistent, and if there are any cards limited to 2 that I'm forgetting that might be nice in this deck, then that could be cool too. At the end of the day though, I think that what Mech Knight really needs is to be able to play both Purple Nightfall and World Legacy's Memory in the same deck at a higher than combined total of 3. These are the consistency cards of the deck, and realistically, any version of Mech Knight isn't going to be quite complete until that happens. It does feel like Mech Knights is just being slowly released from the ban list one bit at a time so that Konami can gauge how safe it is to release certain things. I personally think it can all be put back to 3, except for the cards that are limited to 1. I think it's important that they just stay limited to 1 because they are kind of broken. Evil Swarm Ophion was released to the game limited to 1. Since the deck hasn't really been that competitive, it's almost like a worse version of Constellars. And Constellars themselves have kind of fallen off as well. Being able to play a limited to 1 card though, now that Ophion is off the list, they might like to use enemy controller to help break the opponent's Dex board, they might like to use Monster Reborn as an extender, or they might like to use Allure of Darkness as a draw engine. Lastly, Condemned Witch was dropped into the game immediately limited to 3, which kind of made people think that Forbidden Droplet was also going to be limited to 3, which it wasn't. And then since Droplet came, nobody is using the Witch to search for Droplet or Chalice or Lance. There was some testing with it in Sue ships as a way to interrupt the opponent with Aurora Paragon, which can stop both players from special summoning, but the issue with that is that it's a bit of an inconsistent engine, with you only being able to play 3 Condemned Witch and no way to search for it. It's definitely a cool play, but it's a bit unreliable, and decks that would otherwise be able to rely on it often have a better normal summon available to them. It only makes sense that this be unlimited then, since there's really nothing it's doing right now even limited to 3. So I do just want to remind you guys real quick that we shouldn't count our chickens before they hatch. There's a chance that Konami will drop a skill rebalance later on within the next couple of weeks, but if they don't, then this is the ban list that we are going to be working under for the next format. I do think Tachyon was hit enough to not be tier 0. I think there's a possibility it still may be one of the best decks in the game, and I'm alright with that. I know everybody hates Tachyon for being tier 0, but when it's not tier 0 anymore, I feel like we should let that hate die away. One way or another, the deck has been taken down a peg, and the goal of a ban list isn't to outright completely destroy a deck to make it completely unplayable. That's what they do in the TCG. That's not what Duel Links is all about. It's about bringing it down to a more fair level, and I think that's what they've done successfully here. I think Shiranui basically just took a slap on the wrist, and it's going to be just as good as it was before. There isn't even a chance that it becomes the best deck in the game, but we will have to see how the format shapes up. Since I do believe that this ban list takes us out of a tier 0 format, it's going to mean that more decks are going to be able to step up to the competitive plate again, and I think you guys should be prepared for them. 2 new decks, Cyburst and Photons, with their newest support have actually become really damn strong, and the only reason they haven't been able to show their might is because of the overwhelming strength of Tachyon, forcing you to have a game plan against them in order to even stand a chance. I really think that Cyburst and Photon are just as good, if not better, than Shiranui, so just wait for advanced guides on those decks so you can see just how good they are. Blue Eyes with Battle Chronicle has also shown its chops, and I think the Dark Magician with Battle Chronicle is really good too, and since Tachyon has been taken down a peg, there's a chance that these may become meta level threats as well. And of course, we can't forget all of the decks from the previous meta. Mayakashi, Constellar, Live Twins, Earth Machines, and Tenyi have a very good chance to return to the meta once again. That said, don't count out Tachyon just yet. It's still good, of course, but it's just at a level that we can more easily deal with it. I think that Konami did a good job with this list, to be honest, even though I don't think Shiranui deserved any hits at all. I can understand where they're coming from with the hits it got, and the deck is still good. But we want to know what you guys think of this ban list, so be sure to let us know in the comments and let us know what videos you are looking to see from us. We've got some Battle Chronicle videos on the way, as well as Cyburst and Photon videos on the way too, so stay tuned for those. And when the ban list takes effect, we are definitely going to be making that Tachyon video. But yeah guys, if you liked the video, then slap like now, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell to get notified every time we make a new video. Have yourselves a good one guys, and I've been Undead from Team 6K, signing out.
Hey, why they gotta hate on me? I done got me 250,000 views and they still saying they low key. They ain't wanna come work with the kid, but I'm flexing with Zay on beats. How they ask for a spot at the gym, but they leave all the weight on me. I don't ask them to wait on me. They would ask where they gon' be with a song if they wanted the weatherman. I ain't asking to pay no fees. She was homeless and needed a spot. I ain't ask her to pay no lease. I ain't ask her to say no please. I ain't ask her to make no cheese. Scream fake, but it ain't on me. Got clean so it ain't no streets. Why green if it ain't no keeps? Brought cream so it ain't no beef. My team say it ain't no chief. My demon they hang on me. They seemingly ain't no peace. I seen him, he ain't no beast.